Hi, I'm Steelfur Speaks, and we are fully engaged into preview hype season for High Seas. I love nature, but I also love nautical themes. Shows like Hornblower, fucking hilarious. Books like Master and Commander. Pirates of the Caribbean was pretty good for what it was. You know, all that kind of stuff. I love a good ship. I've been on some old ships plenty of times, so I'm pretty hyped. So in this video, we're going to quickly go through every piece of art. I have gone through all of them in the history of the game that details with ocean themes, right, from every set. So let's just do that quickly, see what it tells us about what classes and things we might expect in the High Seas release. So starting off, people have said, obviously, sink below. I'm just going to dismiss this quickly. She is going through an etheric portal. It even says so in the flavor text. So this is not ocean-themed art, so let's just get rid of it. However, one of the big speculations for this set is that there are going to be necromancers in the set as well. So that's interesting. You can read this art in one of two ways. Either these are concerned brutes who are trying to help save her from the skeletons, or they're, you know, obviously the people who killed her, but it kind of feels like, you know, she's being dragged into a dark portal by skeletons. We'll get back to that. So I've included a lot of necromancer art in this as well, because there's a lot of speculation that that will somehow show up in High Tide, but we'll see how that might work. So let's just, sorry, I've just realized I've forgotten one set, which is very relevant. So let's get Mistveil loaded up so we don't forget that. But let's keep going with art. So Reverberate kind of looked like it's got water, but not really pirate themed. Pursuit of Knowledge is like fairy themed, heavy on the water, but no real pirates. Cadaverous Contraband is where we start to see pirate themes beginning to emerge in like Arcane Rising, and that's because it's well acknowledged that the Pits is on a coast and full of pirates, right? So that's fine. Plunder Run is very much like a pirate themed card at least, but it could just be a thief. Iberphidia is real like that first. This is in the ocean, and it does give us the first hint that the ocean isn't necessarily all lovey-dovey. Oh, aren't pirates really cool? Like, it's worth noting that on a lot of the art we get about the ocean, it's less about the ocean and more about what's under the ocean. And it's kind of telling that the kind of image we got for the ocean isn't just the top of the boat, it's the hull of the ship with reflections down onto the waves. And that's really interesting. So, you know, you might be thinking, not all of this is going to be happening above the ocean. I think that is an important thing to remember. So Iberphidia, obviously, what is Ophidia? Like some giant snake or serpent? Not really sure, but, you know, there is a lot of ocean on the FABTCG map. And we do know through Fab lore that humans weren't originally from the continent of Wraith. So it's kind of written as a throwaway in Fab lore that humans came to Wraith from ships from another continent. So whatever that looks like, we don't really know. It might have been that Eoterra place that they spoiled before the celebrational tournament, which was basically a map of New Zealand but done in the Fab style, but I don't know whether that exists in canon. But Ophidia is speculated by a lot to just be a giant sea serpent, and this is her eye, right? So, you know, or their eye. Just one thing on necromancy, and this is something that's going to puzzle me quite a bit, is that again and again and again, necromancy is seen to be the realm of runeblades and the realm of shadow. So when people say, oh, we're going to get a separate necromancer class, I do harken back to these images, which are all shadow and runeblade, and say, is necromancer just going to be another runeblade, like another shadow runeblade? But I feel like to get the feeling that it wants, it's probably going to be either a shadow illusionist or a new class. I think people do want it as a new class, but it could just be an illusionist. They are the ally class, right? But I just want to note that, like, if you're thinking about necromancers, Mordred Tide is a necromancer card, except it makes rune charms. This art is necromancer, but well, this is early in Fab. This is before everything is codified, so maybe this is just not realistic anymore. Then we have some water imagery. We have like Flood of Force, but this is more like Cutting Rain. But I did want to have a look at all the wet, so-called wet ninja cards, just to see whether or not they were indicating of ships and stuff. We have increased attention, which is clearly showing some sort of giant beastie coming in from the ocean. Again, giving us the hint that piracy is cool, but there's a lot of nasty things potentially happening in the seas around Wraith, right? And maybe not everything we're going to get is going to be pirate and nautical themed. You know, they love to mix ideas together. So we might get one pirate, and then we might get a wet brute, or whatever the talent's going to be, you know, a nautical brute, which is like all of the deep sea monsters and stuff like that. Or we'll get a necromancer who does summon all these deep sea zombies and giants and stuff like that. Consuming Volition, again, I wanted to show this just because this gives us the understanding that, like, not everything that's happening in the water in Wraith is pleasant, right? This is very, like, scary, gothic-y horror. And I suspect we'll see more of this, especially from Necromancer. But again, it's also like, this is a Runeblade attack. So, you know, again, we're seeing those themes of undeath coming into the Runeblade rather than finding a home somewhere else. Foreboding Bolt is... I saw this, I thought it was water, I thought we'd have another look at it, just to see if there was anything more we could see in there. But I think this is very much just like demons coming in the future. Time Skippers, again, I saw water, so I've just gone through Fabry and taken everything that has water in, but nothing really here that indicates it's ocean. Nothing really on Seek Horizon either, worth a look, but that's mostly just Mysteria. Again, we've got Necromancy images, you know, the Grim Reaper, tied to Shadow rather than anything else. So, again, indicating that if we do get a Necromancer, it might just be a Shadow illusionist, but it could also be separate. Lunatai Plunder, again, very strong necromantic imagery associated with Shadow. So, I mean, there is definitely an indication that if there is a Necromancer, it will be a Shadow talent. But whether it's a separate class that is Shadow, or whether it's, you know, just a Shadow version of an existing class, that's hard to say. But there's definitely, like, Shadow is where ghosts and the undead and mutated masses of undead really do fit into the game so far. And in Runeblade as well. I mean, this is a Runeblade drowning someone with a zombie. So, you know, that is 100% like necromancy vibes. Then we get to Everfest and we get our first real, like, what's happening underneath the waves kind of thing, which is Kraken's Ether Vein, which was Icelander's signature weapon, but I don't really understand why. I think it was just done to try and rotate it because they saw it potentially being broken in the future. But Kraken's Ether Vein is very much like, here is the ocean, and here is Cthulhu, and here is a Kraken, and here is huge ocean beasties. And when I think about an ocean-themed set, this is what we're going to get, right? We're going to get pirates, and we're going to get people who fight the monsters because it's, you know, it's a fantasy game. But we're also going to get the monsters, and I would love if we saw like a Shadow Brute that was also also part Kraken or something. That would be really cool. But maybe not a Shadow Brute, maybe something else, some other kind of brute. But that could be really fun. Break Tide, I wanted to have a look at this because it's all water, but he's just kind of controlling the water to kill ninjas, so that's not particularly exciting. Obviously, we have we have the biggest like hint you ever did see. I tweeted this out on Blue Sky, and I kind of said, people keep saying, oh, pirate's going to be a separate class. I'm like, no, it's just going to be a ranger, right? This is a pirate. This is your pirate ranger. There's just going to be a new ranger that is a pirate. We're not going to get pirate as a class. We're going to get a pirate-themed ranger. We might get a pirate-themed talent that makes the cards, you know, very good in that pirate. But there's going to be a pirate. And if they're fun and doing something fun about it, they'll add a way to put, like, summoning of ships into the game, so you can have your pirate ship, and they'll do all this stuff that makes it feel very piratey, but it's going to be a ranger, right? So I think that's pretty much locked in. I'd be very surprised if we see a whole pirate class at this stage. Buzzsaw Trap is more about the sewers under the pits, but, you know, again, lots of water and a lot of ranger cards. Let's go back to them. So we're already through to Outsiders. We're kind of boarding through this. Again, in Outsiders, we have a ship, which is on the high seas. He's wearing some very fancy sandals. But this is kind of like first proper pirate ship we see aside from, just bits and pieces. This I thought might be piratey, but it's not. This is, I thought was on a pirate ship, but it's not. That's fine. This is obviously a pirate who's drunk in Metrics or in the pits. Lena Bell, so she might be a pirate that we see, though I'd be very surprised if they made this character into the hero, just because I don't think her art style is different enough. I think it's like not, I don't know what to say, it's not like interesting enough. It's just like kind of generic pirate, but the fact that she's quoted means she might be considered for a hero or something like that. I wanted this because it had water in, but it's kind of not. It's just a palace. Then we have this Figment of Tenacity. Like, I don't know how any other ways we can say it. Is when we see the sea in fab art, we see monsters, right? There be dragons. Hiccsunt Draconis, I think, is the... Hiccsunt Draconis basically means there be dragons, but it's what they used to write on the edge of maps where they didn't know what was there. They just thought there were dragons and giant sea creatures there because ships never came back. So they wrote Hiccsunt Draconis. And if you play any of the Civilization games, it's always what they say when you're thinking about exploring other continents before you can get there. Right. Later Rest, I was kind of just looking at this for Necromancy, but I couldn't really find it. Shade and Death Hydra, I was kind of trying to see if this Hydra was coming in from the ocean. It doesn't look like it is. That's fine. Again, we see it's a Runeblade attack. He's eating people and he's a lich. Necromancy, okay. It's a ghost. It's a Runeblade attack. Shadow Runeblade, Necromancy. Lost in Thought is Illusionist, okay, but it's like summoning images of the dead. So again, the argument for Shadow Illusionist being Necromancer is quite strong, I think. Just so is the answer for it being some sort of Shadow Runeblade as well. But, they might make it as a separate class. They kind of said they would, or they said Necromancer's probably coming. Reelin, this is the guy from Sunken Trench. Obviously, they're trying to hunt something. And again, anytime we see the ocean, it's full of tentacles and monsters. This is not going to be a calm set, people. This is going to be a set full of beasties on the open seas. And we're going to get dark, I think. I thought I saw a ship in here, but I can't now. I thought I saw some scrap here, but I can't. Phantom Tidemore, I thought might have something to do with the tide. It does not. But this could be a sea creature, right? Because it's a Tidemore. I wouldn't be surprised to see this in the ocean again. So another ocean monster. Cut Through the Facade. This is potentially our pirate hero, right? Now, some people have speculated, right, that we'll get a pirate ranger and then we'll get a pirate necromancer, and the necromancer will have his whole ship of the damned, crew of the damned kind of vibe. I would absolutely adore that. I will say to the person who said that, though, in this image, it is very clear to me that the spirits belong to the person who's being cut to pieces, right? So this is very much pirates versus necromancers. So if that isn't a clear indication of what's coming up in High Tide, I don't know what is. We're going to have pirates, we're going to have necromancers, and we're going to have some sort of wet brute, okay? Some sort of monsters, beasties, way of representing those in the game, right? Whether that's Dromai coming back or someone who's similar to Dromai, who summons all of these like sea creatures from Forgotten Legend. I think we could see a new illusionist coming in that form. So actually, to be fair, we could have that. We could have Necromancer, we could have Ranger a la Pirate, and we could have an illusionist who summons in sea creatures with a blue theme, because we have seen a lot of blue-themed illusionist. I don't know if the game is ready for another blue-themed illusionist, though. Yeah, I don't think it is, but that's okay. I brought this up just to see if any of them were pirates, but they're not really. Call to the Grave. Again, I think it's so important to look at the placing of this model. You've got a necromancer on the ship summoning drowned creatures over the side of the ship. Like, so these last two arts, they're not even like hints. They're kind of like direct, like keyed up clues for the next set, right? Nothing really on Haunting Rendition. They're kind of like keyed up clues for the next set, right? Because everything we see is it's a pirate fighting a necromancer. who's and the spirits are trying to save their master. It's a necromancer summoning like spirits over the side. Also, can I just say, what is happening with this person's back, right? How is this person looking at the angle she's looking? It's a bit weird. I like the art and I like the colors, but I feel like her positioning is a bit like, it's just a bit skewed, right? It should just be her facing the camera, rather than like facing off to the side and contorting herself weirdly to bring her face back into the frame. I don't really understand, but I love her dress. Necromancer is going to be a hard class for me because I'm going to want to buy in, but I don't know what I sell out of. I might have to sell out of... I don't even know, actually. I don't know what I sell out of. But everyone's going to be buying in, so I'm not going to buy in straight away because I can't afford the hype. But, there's definitely going to be corpses coming out of the ocean, right? Then we've got obviously the most obvious, which is Shelter from the Storm. Here's a pirate, dark clouds on the horizon. No hint of undead really anywhere. But, that's all right. Can't have it in everything. And then we have Lay Low. Someone's being hunted by an evil shadow creature from a cult. Could be somewhat synonymous with what we're going to see, like necromancers hunting for someone. Then we have this weird fish person, which is great. So, every single piece of art we've seen of the ocean involves some sort of monster coming out of it. So that kind of says everything. Is this our new crustacean brute? Shell brute? Maybe. And then I thought this was water, but it's not. So that's kind of everything, right? And then if we go, just because I did forget Mistveil when I was doing everything. Silly me, forgetting Mistveil, one of the most recent sets. And there is obviously a ton of water-themed art in Mistveil, but most of it is tied to Mistveil itself, rather than being tied to like the water, in the same way that, in the same way that we see in other. But there is, huge art pieces here involving the ocean that I think it is just worth acknowledging and having a bit of a look at to see what we can find, and see if there's anything interesting in there. And I'll apologize for not doing this before the recording because I thought I had everything. And here we are again. Right, to the generics, though. Yeah, we've got all these emissaries, which is just worth having a look at. It's worth having a look at Murky Water because of the name. Rowdy Locals might be worth having a look at. This is what I did when I was doing this originally. Siren's Call, this is just a pond in Mysteria, so we can dismiss that. This is just a koi pond, fine. Koi pond, fine. Nothing really there. Nothing really there. Nothing really there. Dense blue mist, nothing there. All of these are kind of like ocean themed. Here's a question. Why so many people in Mysteria practicing in the ocean? Maybe they're fighting something. Passover is an interesting one because it is very much someone descending into a pond or a lake, but I can't really see anything creepy in there, so that's probably fine. Same with Deep Blue Sea. It's like definitely blue. Moonlight carries me home to a place where sky meets water, where the cycle begins anew. So it kind of implies something is in the water bringing power or change, which would be quite synonymous. I mean, the moon and changing cycles is pretty established in human culture as a thing. Droplets, all of these are just going to be fun water, right? Because water's blue. But it does imply that like Mysteria is training people to use the water. So if we see something sneaking in that like Mysteria has been fighting these people or something like that, that would be interesting. Because they're all, protecting their coast, I would say, is the vibe it gives me. Look at this happy chappy. He's just sitting there chilling out with some tea. Little bit of a skeleton. Up to no bad business, There's the Phantom Tidemore again. This guy is kind of like a bone giant. He's kind of like an undead minion. I think we might see some giants. And no, it's trees. Okay, that's fine. Prismatic ley lines, nothing interesting there. And then we have the Emissaries. So Emissary of the Moon is clearly the Emissary of the Moon clan, right? Heading out to spread the wisdom of the moon with the world. And that's kind of like Enigma, so that's kind of like Mysteria themselves, but the other emissaries are a bit different. So Emissary of the Tides, in the depths of the ocean a world unseen awaits, where the songs of the tides reveal secrets of a forgotten age. So again, very much implying that High Tides is going to be under the ocean rather than on top of it, and very much like kind of leading us down the path of where is this going to go, what is this going to see. Emissary of Wind is very much like Solana, going to Solana. It's fine. Murky Waters, nothing really there. He's just in the sewer. Rowdy Locals, nothing really there. Anyway, that's a complete review. So, I mean, in summary, Rangers are the new pirates, right? Pirate-themed, probably have some sort of boats or ships or something like that. Catapults and ballistas and things. There's definitely going to be something involving monsters and creepy monsters. And we see multiple images of necromancers raising corpses from the water. So, you know, what's that going to look like? I think there's going to be some shadow in the high seas, and I think there's going to be maybe a new talent, but I don't think we need a new talent. I think we're just going to get a very synergistic ranger that mostly works with boats or ships and stuff like that, and then we're going to get zombie summoning with a drowned kind of theme, and then probably a brute or a, you know, kind of like monstery feeling something. I mean, it makes sense to be a brute, right? It makes sense to get an ocean brute. The only wild card is that wizard staff, that Icelander. We might see an ice wizard. Now that we've had Jarl, we might see an ice wizard, and see something coming back in that vein, because clearly there's something tied to the oceans in that ice magic kind of vibe. So that's my theories. Do you agree, disagree? Are we going to get a whole pirate class? Have I just killed your vibe, or am I telling the truth? And as always, if you've listened this far and you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. I love watching that number tick up. It lets YouTube know I'm doing a good job. And of course, it gives me motivation to keep bringing you all fab content in the future. Thank you very much, and goodbye.